Put him on the spot?
Put him on the spot.
Put him on the spot. Okay, in the back of the room, we were just chatting. You can tell the story. Tell the story how you got listening today. First of all, my name's DiDio. In case you know. Greg Capullo. See, the reason why is we have an event that we can't talk about, so we're just going to make up stuff. So it makes it feel like we had a good time, but got no information from it. So, back to you.
All right, so I'm talking about a good friend of mine that I've known for a very, very long time. And he's like a confidant, supports me and all kinds of stuff. And I had some issues that I wasn't happy with, and I was complaining. And he goes, I got the perfect thing that I want to send to you. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to put a smile on your face. And so then he says, where are you? And I says, in Florida. He goes, you're in Florida? Where in Florida? I says, I'm in Orlando. And he goes, oh, for a show? Yeah, for a show. What's your hotel and room number? Because I have something I want you to have. It's really going to put a smile on your face. And so I'm like, what the hell could this be, you know? And all of a sudden, I get knock on the door. He tells me also to be a total blind guy. I know this kind of fool is going to bring this thing. So I knock on the door. I don't answer because I'm busy. I get another text. And, you know, man, I have a wife. And so I get another text. Goes, you know, my friend just knocking on the door, nobody answered. I know, you know, busy. I want to stay married, hopefully. And so he goes, okay, I'm going to send it back. And he knock on the door. And who do I open the door to find? Mr. Todd McFarlane. Todd was absolutely right, man. He sent me something that put a big smile on my face, man. I was like, Daddy! Yeah, so anyway, there's my boy right back there, man. Mr. Todd McFarlane.
And there, he went to see you he was going to see you.
He's ready to go to see me where I live, up in New York, and he was in Penn Station, because he just assumed I was home. You know, and then at the last minute, something just kicked him in the brain. He goes, maybe I just better be sure before I get on the train to go Greg's out. And so he had flown from Phoenix, Arizona to New York, thinking that's where I am, only to find out I'm in Orlando. And he's like, oh. And talking to his wife, he goes, you know, there's a convention going on in Phoenix. There is the internet, Todd. You could have searched to see where Greg was. Wouldn't it have been something if Greg was at Phoenix Comic-Con and he flew out of Phoenix to New York and had to then fly back to Phoenix to see Greg, you know? But that's just kicking a dog while it's down, you know?
And when you think about it, there's actually, believe it or not, guys, there's 5 conventions going on this weekend. You know that? There's one in San Antonio, one in Phoenix, here in Orlando, one in London, and one in San Juan, and we chose here to be with you. So that's it.
I should have went to Phoenix.
Would have been a funnier story. Okay, now we're here for a reason. We're here to talk about the big event that DC is about to announce. I guess you guys heard about it. How many people here heard about our new Dark Knights Metal big epic miniseries? Thanks. And the good part is that by the time you leave this room, every hand will be up if I ask this question again. So I'm glad about that. And for that, Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second, because this has been your baby for a while, and we're going to tell stories along the way. But Scott, tell us what was the origins for metal, where did the story start from, and what are you hoping to accomplish with this series?
Please share with us your genius.
Well, first, I just want to say thanks again to everybody who's been so kind to us down here. It's been a real blast so far, and everyone that's also been really nice to my family and his family and my kids. You guys have been really awesome to all of us. So.
I've sent you all your checks, thank you.
So metal, for me, was when Greg and I were finishing up Batman, and I knew he was going to come back in about a year, I started thinking about, what would be worth it? Like, what kind of story would we do that would make it worth your while to see us come back together? Because we had done everything we could with Batman to make it as big and crazy as possible. But at that point, I started talking to Dan and saying, well, what if we did a big DC event that went from, like, the Source Wall to the center of the Earth to Oa to everywhere? That was, like, involving every crazy character that would make sense for the story, from the Justice League, obviously, to Dr. Fate, to Mr. Terrific, just everywhere. Just something that would give us all the toys to celebrate sort of the greatness of the DCU, and to do that kind of old school bonkers, out of control event, but in a way that sort of brought everything new. For us, like, Rebirth has been such a great success, and it's been such a joy to be a part of, and thank you guys so much for being so supportive over the last year. I mean, it's really been an incredible time to be at DC, and one of the great things about doing an event under those circumstances is that if Rebirth is sort of about bringing back classic, right, and it's about bringing back all this legacy, and doing it in a fun new way, then metal is almost about sort of generating new. We wanted it to be something where it's like we can take the risks, introduce new characters, new concepts, and go as big and nutty as possible from go. So we want you to open it and just be like, what the F are these guys doing? This is crazy.
That's an extra bad word.
Yeah, no, it's not, there's kids, just like a kid with a pacifier. Grow up, person. Anyways, Disney. Anyways, I have the least metal thing in the world. I have like my Mickey Mouse band on.
That's why you use the F instead of the word.
Yeah. But, so anyway, so I started thinking about this story where I was like, alright, well, I've had this idea in the back of my head for a while, you know, where I was like, I'd love to do a story where Batman and the Justice League start to discover a mystery that leads them to understand that their cosmology, the whole DC multiverse, is much bigger than they ever thought, right? And all of those stories are exploratory, you know, the ones that sort of have the multiverse in them, usually we go to other aspects of the multiverse. And I was like, well, what if my kid loves the show Cosmos, right? He loves Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's 5, so he like calls him Cosmo and all that. And we watch it all the time together. I just got him like a custom Lego figure of Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's really cute. He has a cup though, which is so weird. I'm like, why does he have like a goblet like he drinks? But anyway,
knowledge.
that is what I'll tell him instead of votes for beer. Anyway, but the thing I'm getting at is that one of the concepts that I loved was that's so fascinating to me about this moment in astronomy is that they discovered recently that our whole universe is made up of mostly this stuff, dark energy and dark matter, right? So about 80+% of the universe is actually stuff that we can't see or detect, but we see its effects in the way it holds constellations, galaxies together. So I was like, well, what if the DC multiverse is the same way? What if the multiverse that we know, those 52 universes that Grant has sort of set up with that beautiful map and diagram, essentially exists on this roiling ocean of dark energy and dark matter, this phantom, scary, really unknown and unexplored place of all new sort of possibility, all new worlds, all new kinds of things. And Batman starts to discover this, and the whole league discovers it just as they realize that that dark multiverse is about to invade. So instead of us going there, they're coming here in a terrifying, big, crazy way. So from go, it opens up this whole kind of Pandora's box of the world, the universe is bigger than we thought, there's new characters involved, there's new threats, there's new cosmology, there's new, all kinds of sort of, you know, beings from the dark multiverse. And all of this stuff has been such a joy in terms of it being this huge forge, this kind of like engine of creativity among Greg and me and the creators involved, because we just want to go out there and melt your face this summer. And we want it to be...
Melt your face!
We do. We want
What started Melt Your Face?
I probably did.
I think you did too.
Probably, yeah, Death in the Family, or whatever it is. It's like but they, yeah, what we want is like, we know, you know, with these kind of events too, we want it to be celebratory. It's got huge effects at the end, it spins tons of new stuff out, it's going to change things and all that. But it's not dark grim. It has dark in the title consistently, dark matter, dark days, dark, because of the dark multiverse. We want you to feel it's celebratory. It's huge and threatening, and you know, characters you're going to see big effects. But we also want you to come and just feel like if, you know, Jack Kirby and Frank Frazetta had a baby to like a heavy metal soundtrack. Just a screaming heavy metal soundtrack.
Yeah!
Right. This is that event with like robots and Batman rides a dinosaur in issue 1 at one point. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. It's literally like, that's a super spoiler, but it is true. It is true. He escapes on one. Which is sort of awesome. He's like, go! And it's like, I just love it. And it's not the dinosaur from the cave. It's like a real dinosaur with like feathers and shit, feathers and whatever. We want you to have fun. We want it to be something where we can say thank you guys for making us have one of the best years in history, creatively, commercially, all of that. And so we can take the risks and do things that are just outside the box and create new for you. Because, you know, you got Doomsday Clock, you got Rebirth, all that stuff that's going to set in place a lot of stuff that you always love. This is the place to come and just rock out and have fun and release your inner rock out and have fun with us this summer. It really is a way of us saying thank you and just going nuts. So that's my best pitch. That's sort of everything in a nutshell that I said to Dan when I was like first trying to get him to do it. I was like, yeah, I remember pitching it to him and I'm like, and it's going to be called Now. And I was like, silence on the phone. He was great. He was like, and then he was like, listen.
I like jazz.
That was the second title. Yeah.
Call it Snazzy Jazz.
No, my favorite, I'm going to have to say this part. Yeah, he did pitch it on the phone several times, and the way Scott works, in case you want to know, is that he's constantly pitching it off of everybody, trying to see how people react and what the statement is. So, this is a true story. We're at the Boston convention in August last year, and he was still pitching it. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning. 1 o'clock in the morning. Let's remember this, guys. 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting there having a beer with somebody else over there, and out of the corner of my ear, I hear Scott's metal pitch. And I'm like, is he pitching? And I turn around. He's pitching it to my fiance, of all things. And I'm like, are you pitching her metal? And he goes, no, I thought you were pitching. I'm like, you were caught pitching her metal. So, and then he's like, make sure you don't tell anybody. I said, I think you've pitched everybody. Nobody left to tell.
I literally was talking to like Amadeo, and like anybody. Well, the thing is that what you got to remember too is that all of us involved in this business at DC, you know, everyone from the top to the bottom, they're in it because they love comics. So you get to know them, and it's great to talk to assistant editors, everybody. He is right. I pitched to everybody. I just pitched it to you guys. I was just pitching it straight out. So, and
you got the same exact pitch we did.
And you bought it, right? It's cool.
Okay, how do you pitch it over to you, Greg? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, Scott said to me, we're going to be reuniting, and I gave this a lot of thought, and I want it to be somewhat about you even, and I go, what encompasses, Greg? I mean, how do his fans, perceive him? And he goes, you're just kind of like this rough guy who's like metal, and he goes, so I just want to write this big, crazy rock and roll type thing. And then he starts telling me a lot of things he just described to you about dinosaurs and all this kind of crazy stuff with the cosmos and using these characters and gladiators and swords and motorcycles, and you just go, I'm in.
it was like Jerry Maguire.
The only thing I got to do is get him to sneak in we're going to sneak in some Marshall amplifiers, full stacks, maybe a couple Les Pauls, Flying V's, and we're in business.
Well, and the other thing too is, it gives us a chance to create really big new threads. Really soon, just next month and so on, you're going to start to see more pieces of the story begin to become public and all that stuff. And it's really fun. It's meant to be sort of the first story that we get to do that uses all the toys, but we wanted to create something that's worthy of that big story when it comes to the level of conflict and threat. So it is something that's really going to shape, be exploratory and sort of introduce you to these whole new areas of the DCU. And new characters, but it's also going to threaten them in a way that really shakes everybody to their core too. So it's got that big sort of bonkers stakes that I've always loved about DC.
And the thing is, I'm relatively new to DC. A lot of you don't know or do know. I grew up kind of a Marvel guy, and I've worked for DC now for 5 or more years. And but I haven't done many of their characters, right? I was on Batman, and we had some cameos in there, the JLA, and a lot of people go, Greg, well, God, get on GLA, and I'm like, that's a team, but I'm out. That's a lot of work, man. And but anyway, so I get to do the JLA, excuse me. And but so many more of the characters, as he's saying. So I mean, I'll tell you, one of the ones I can't wait for is Hawkman. I just think he looks badass, right?
Yeah.
That beak and the wing with that. I mean, just go, oh, wait till I get my hopes in that one, right? But then I get to also create new characters for the DCU, which is super exciting, right? Anytime it's cool because when you're a little kid, you draw your stuff. You're just long before you're dreaming even of working for a company. But you look at comic books and you want to create your own characters. And most of them suck, but every once in a while I go, wow, it's cool. So now I can go to some of those sketch pads I had when I was 8 years old and go, yeah, this will work at DC. I'll just print that one out a little bit.
You charge us top dollar for those things.
Well, I'm going to print it up. It won't be in crayon. So anyway, one exciting thing for me is that I get to touch so many of the characters at the DCU, if even for just short stints in certain scenes or whatever. That's going to be one of the most fun things for me, yeah?
Yeah, and the other thing I'd say too is just the great thing about getting to see him do this, and he sends in designs all the time, and I promise you, really, really soon, like so soon that we almost were saying this panel, some of it, but it'll be really close to now. The designs that he's creating for these characters, villains and heroes.
You're going to want them as toys.
Yeah, you are. But it's also great because we're doing everything in continuity, in coordination with Rebirth. So one of the things is, I know that with the topic Dark Multiverse, or because we've been sort of hush-hush about the event for a while, because we were getting all the assets and stuff together to get to show you, if there's any confusion about whether it's sort of outside continuity or it's another world, it's 1,000% in continuity, affecting the books, affecting the characters in ways that will spin a story out, all that kind of stuff. And one of the great joys of it has been able to go out to Burbank a few times, meet with not only Jeff Johns about it, but also meet with a lot of the writers on the books that I've become really close with, from Tom King, Josh Williamson, Steve Orlando, up and down, Greg Rucka, and talk about some of the stuff that's going to happen to these characters in their own books and be able to coordinate with them in ways that create big new stories. So it's great to see him to be able to introduce all kinds of new characters and stuff, and also work within the kind of great tapestry of the DCU as it exists in Rebirth.
I want to ask you guys a quick question. I'm going to build back to that for a second, but I want to go back to the construction and how we got to this spot too. How was it when you were working on Batman? You guys going to be working any differently here on this series than you did on Batman, and how much of your Batman run is influencing what happens in the miniseries?
Well, as far as the way we're working, one of the things that we'd like to try is to go more like plot-driven, in the meaning that Scott came from school, giving full script, and that's, every which is nothing bad. It's nothing bad. It's not a criticism.
Super full script.
Yeah, a super full script. There's like the camera is a low angle, panel one, and the phone is in the foreground. A little too much direction, buddy. You know what I mean? Don't be a jack of all trades. Stick to the writing. So I'll be the director. But anyway, Scott quickly, learned, because I'm at the complete opposite end of how I was trained and how I learned and how I was accustomed to working. And like, I grew up at Marvel, and they were a plot-driven thing. So you get maybe 4 to 6 pages, of story, of evocative writing, and then it was up to you to, break that down, pace it out, and illustrate it. And it gave you some flexibility, because if you go, that'd make a great splash page or something, you could juggle things, move things, squeeze things, move it around. And then after you illustrated it, the only thing, you have key moments of dialogue, because certainly as an illustrator, you need to hit those emotional beats to get the acting right for a certain scene. So that stuff would be provided. But so that is relatively sparse dialogue. And then they would get all the pictures back, and then the writer would then get inspired by what you drew, and then script to that. And Scott, in the beginning, I said to him, just give me the important words. And he goes, everything's important. Every word is important. And I go, well, that's not really true, but okay. So that was the beginning. And so Scott and I have already been moving toward kind of where I think DC as a whole is trying to experiment and move toward now, which is to give a less angle about the scripting and the tight scripting to give artists more room for visual creativity. Because at the end of the day, yes, you do need a great, solid, interesting, well-written story, but you're looking at pictures, right? So it's not like you're in the isolation of a novel. And so you have to then maybe give a little bit more leeway to the guy who's in charge of the visual aspect of things. So we're DC is trying to move in that direction to see if we can make, more visually popping, fun to look at comics instead of putting the writing up front. Let's get the art as And so, but Scott has never, in his time, we've always moved in this way, just in a natural process. The way Scott has worked from the beginning, as he said, this super tight script, it quickly became, maybe not as quickly, but after a few, rock and sock and robot action, that he started to go, okay, I will tell him all this stuff. He still gives me all the dialogue, and he'll give me, like, as he sees story beats. And he goes, I need to write this way because I need to visualize. So you can interpret a story beat as a panel, right? So one panel, but he always goes, but you're free to take out some beats or put more beats in if you need them, okay? And so he's always giving me that freedom, and he'll write a scene, and he'll give me a couple ideas that he has, and here's one of my most endearing things that I have about Scott, is he'll say, or whatever you want, with an exclamation point, but it doesn't end there, it adds a smiley face at the end of that. Or whatever you want, exclamation point, smiley face! And it's at that moment that I'm I'm reading the script that I always wish somebody would make one of those little plush dolls of a Scott Snyder that I could then pick up and go, I love you. And I squeeze it and go,
Did you bring the latest?
I had it ready. As you know, I've had some issues going on.
Well, and also, like, one of the joys of working with him is that it's a trust thing where you get to know an artist and you realize that they can do it way better than you can. You know, the visual storytelling, all of it. So we've evolved to a place where I do kind of partial script, partial outline, where I'll say, like, from pages 2 to 9, here are the action beats, like, here are the beats, but, you know, no page breaks, no anything, sort of whatever you want to do. But the last one I sent, I'm trying to go even further. Like, the last one I just sent, it was only 9 pages long total, with, you know, all of it in there. You know, in a regular script, it's 20 pages. I mean, it's like, you know, you break it, it's 20 pages or whatever. So we found our own way of working, but I agree 1,000% that, you know, the more room you can give guys like Greg, who are indomitable storytellers, the better the story will be always. You know, I remember exactly when I kind of learned that too. It was issue 5, the turning.
Issue 5, huh?
You know where that man turns.
Oh, that's all I get. Issue 5. Come on.
That was the first time because you came up with the idea of turning it, but also within the labyrinth. I remember you kept asking for more room, and I was like, all right, you know, I'll just put in a few things and see how it goes. And it was so much better than anything I ever imagined, and the whole feel. That I always point to that issue as probably my favorite, both because I love sort of the way that the daring that you had with the idea of turning it, but also, looking back at our run, it's funny because you guys have your favorite issues, but I also have, and so do I, but I have favorite issues because they're points in our relationship as a team. You know, they're private that way, where I'm like, oh, that's where we went through this together, or that's where Greg helped me through this, or that's where this good thing happened, and we had just been at this con and that stuff. And that to me is the seminal moment where our relationship started to really, as creative partners, really begin to open up and become something special for us.
And as a team, I plan to still go in this direction with this movement that DC's trying to make, because it'd be like, it was easier for me. I was training how to direct and storytelling and all that, to go, okay, I already know how to do that. Now the guys give me a full script, and you know, okay. But I think it's a harder transition for a writer who's always been so methodical and tight and scripting to then try and convert to my way. So I'm gonna stay close with Scott at every step of the way to make sure that we get something that really works. Because the nightmare scenario for me, because Scott can be a little wordy sometimes, right? Just a little bit. And I go, so my worry is that if I don't have the full script and I illustrate it as I would, that all of a sudden too much words will be plastered onto the art or something like that. So to me, I still think we have to feel our way through this field until we get to the right spot. It's not going to be just like, we're going to just do it that way. And I love him, and he loves me, and we're just going to work close together. He sent me, as he said, his new approach. He's going to tell me what you think. I haven't looked at it yet, and we'll look at it, and we'll just, because the goal, it's not about, oh, he's got the ego, or I got the ego, and I have to have the upper hand. It's about you guys, right? Because you guys are the ones shelling out $4 for a comic book, which is not a cheap price, right? They were a lot cheaper when I was growing up. And so $4, you want to make sure that at the end of the day, you didn't think that you threw that $4 away. You want to be happy and content and go, that was awesome. That was cool. And that's our goal. So no matter, you know, what approaches, you know, our goal is to get our machine fine-tuned so that we can get the very best result. So if that means he goes a little looser, gives me a little room, I go, no, you can add some words there, wherever we land. You are the #1 main interest, and also for DC because they pay us, right? But ultimately, you know, we have you in our hearts and our mind, and we will work every day, hard as we can, for you. Yes, you do. You know, you're not left out, you pay us. But we go hard as we can for you guys, and so we are going to find the most perfect blend, the way he and I work, that delivers the most dynamite to your hands, and that's it.
Well, and with these, I wish to show you pages too. I mean, the stuff that he's already turned in is easy.
So cool and
it's
fun.
So good. He did a page. It's like the Justice League standing in Gotham where, I can't give away what, but like, Flash is like investigating, trying to find a door to something, and just the way he draws the lightning for Flash and him going around the Justice League all standing there, it's like one of my favorite images of Justice League ever. It's so good. I really can't wait for you to see this stuff. So.
And I kind of draw them in gladiator outfits, which you've seen online. Yeah. Come on, JLA and gladiator outfits with swords and everything like that, and battle axes. Oh man, they're fighting giant robots and stuff. It's so cool.
How old are you guys? Really?
And I'll tell you, right? Because Scott lets me, do things as I want to do them. So, I knew that like Superman was gonna be looking at something, and he made, his estimation on this thing that he's observing, and then he goes, and the next thing, the Flash goes and he investigates it. So the way I did it though, because I thought it's just cooler and fun, is like Superman's, looking at his thing, and as he's saying what he's seeing, his cape and hair blow, and you see lightning bolts. Nobody had to tell Flash anything. If Superman didn't even get a sentence out of his mouth, he'd go, I'm on it. So that's that cool kind of fun stuff that I like to do, and he gives me the freedom to just play, do whatever I want. So.
And I love also like there's a scene where they're coming back from space after this huge gladiator battle. And like Green Lantern, because Batman can't obviously survive in space, he's in a construct that Green Lantern made that's like a ship, coming back, and he drew him like so Batman is driving it, which is hilarious. It's like he knows that Green Lantern knows Batman well enough that he makes me control drive. Even though it's like coming out of Green Lantern's ring, which is awesome. So the way he thinks about character, I mean that's the thing. Like 1,000% true what he was saying about us wanting to make you guys something special, and the amount of thought that goes into the art day in day out is just is not only inspiring. It's why I want to work with him forever, is because it makes me a better writer every time. So he comes up with ideas for the story, not just in terms of designs, but in terms of how the scene plays out emotionally, that make me really rethink. Make me rethink each way how to make it better. So in that way, it really is. I could not be prouder of this book so far. I mean, and honestly, it really is. I think it's going to be something that really surprises you.
And I won't settle on anything. I drew this splash page, and by any estimation, people went, "That's great," and they did say, "That's great." And I go, "No, it's just not good enough." And my wife is going, "Are you crazy?" And I go, "It's just not good enough." And even though you would have seen it and thought it was really cool.
I texted it to like everybody in the DC writer. I was like, oh my god, look at this amazing page.
And I go, that's terrible. If I was an editor, I'd go, here, kid, just push this 10% more this way, whatever. So anyway, I took the thing and I redid it entirely. And then my wife always goes, you're crazy. And then she sees my new edition of it and she goes, that is a lot better. So I showed it to him, and he goes, both were great, because he's a politician, but it was better.
No, it was better.
So my point is, when I said to you about your money and how I value you as the customer and my fan, I don't care if it cost me 2 extra days of work. It was like, I got to give them the best shot for that money. And so wait till you see it. Giant robot member.
Yeah, it's page 10, I can tell you.
And that's the other thing too, is like, I read this opening scene that Scott had for our first issue of Metal. And it's so exciting with the JLA, all dressed in their gladiator garb, they're fighting giant robots in an arena in outer space. And you just go, it's 7 pages, Greg. I go, 7 pages? I go, no. Come on, I got giant robots and stuff in an arena. So I expanded to 11 pages, I think. And I go, no, this needs room to breathe, man. So here we go. So the rock show is as soon as you open it, there's where the lights and the smoke and the power bombs go off, and we're in business. So.
It really, that's the fun though, is like, whatever room he needs, he takes, and it makes it better for me. Like, I can adjust, he can adjust, so. It's a lot of fun. And go back to what Dan asked also about how it'll sort of tie into the stuff that we've already done. We want it to be something that if you happen to not read anything of our Batman, doesn't matter. You can pick it up and it's the story is self-contained entirely, so it's always user-friendly in that regard. But if you did read our Batman, there are all kinds of sort of connections where essentially the way that the Justice League, this is a little bit of a spoiler, discovers this dark multiverse and its existence, and that these things are coming here to take over in this really terrifying way, is that Batman has been taken advantage of from the moment he started in our run with the Owls all the way through Tom's run, where he's being laced. The key to the mystery is nth metal. The nth metal has these properties that nobody in the DCU has ever been able to fully explain. It heals you, it makes you fly. If you're stabbed with it, all of a sudden you start living multiple lives. It's Dr. Fate's helmet, it's Deathstroke's armor. It has all kinds of weird properties that seem to not be of this cosmology somehow. So ultimately what Batman realizes is that he's being secretly laced with all these different metals over the years from these different adventures to add up to a particular number on the periodic table that's going to open up the door.
Isn't he smart?
So it's really... When you start to see all the kinds of things that... Because I started thinking about this story a long time ago, as they'll attest. Like, the name and all that stuff and the things, like the little things, you know, some of the stuff came over the last year. But in terms of doing a capstone to everything that we did and something that would blow the DCU up in a fun way, it started to be like, well, what's one of the connections? Well, Batman, there's Electrum in Torvalds and Dionysium in the Joker stories. And then there's Batmanium and Batman stuff and super heavy. And well, there's this weird connection of these strange secret metals. So I was like, oh, well, what if Batman has been part of a mystery that he didn't even see until now? And once he sees it, it's the first mystery he ever does not want to solve. He's like, I don't want to get to the end of this thing because I'm afraid it points back to me. And so it really becomes this thing that uses Batman as kind of the doorway, but as this huge sort of DCU epic, out of control thing. So for those of you that have read our stuff, it'll be fun because you'll see things from the SWAT team at Endgame, the bedrock from 0 Year Joker. His history with Batman comes in a big way, both in the two Prelude issues, which I would just point to also for you guys, just not to hawk them, but because the Forge and the casting, we couldn't call them a Prelude to Metal because we hadn't announced Metal yet. And because they're cool in themselves, because it hints at, you know, the Dark Matter books and all those cool things coming out. But these two issues in June and July, Dark Days, The Forge, and Dark Days, The Casting, with John Romita Jr., Andy Kubert, and Jim Lee, written up with by me and James Tynan, are really, really fun in the regard that they set up the stakes of the whole story, give you all these big Easter eggs, explore the mythology, and bring you some big beats that'll affect everything in a different way too. But you'll see a lot of that stuff that was through the history of our run, all the way back to the very first issues, all the way through stuff that Tom has done with Psycho Pirate and all of that, laced all the way through. So it's gonna be a lot of fun, and the button too, it references that as well. So it's really done in coordination with everything in the DCU, and we want it to feel like it's this on-ramp, like everything you've read by us, all the stuff that's been happening in the DCU, the reason that Batman set up all these teams like JLA and Detective, the reason he set up, you know, did the Detective Comics team, the fact that if you notice, Damian's the head of Teen Titans, Dick is the head of Titans, it's almost like Batman has been placing people in around the DCU because he knows something terrible might be coming over the last year, right? All of that comes to fruition from the frequencies that Flash discovered while he's on the button trip, everything, like, comes to bear here. So that's why we wanted it to be something that if you've read our stuff, or you go back and read it, it rewards you in all kinds of fun ways. But if you haven't, you can just dive right in and it'll be like blam from page one.
I gotta ask one big question. That Batmandium, that isn't around his bones, is it?
That would be, yeah, right?
Just checking. No, I mean, this is honestly one of the good things. I mean, Scott's laying it all out. He just touched upon the casting, the Forge and the Casting, which are the Prelude books that take place in June and July, getting us into the big event, which is Metal, and touching upon a couple of other things I said too. Greg's absolutely right. We are really focused, and we really realize the best comics are ones created when it's a truly collaborative process, when the writers and artists are working together hand in hand and really getting a chance. And actually, Greg's the one who started us thinking along those lines. I mean, there's a point there. You said you're not getting my full work. You're not giving my full effort. And he says you're only getting 70% Greg Capullo on the page. And I'm like, how about? No, I got 110% of Greg. But he says you're only getting 70%. I said, well, I'm saying I'm paying 100%. How do I get 100% on the page? But and it really was. He started talking about the process, and when he talked about it, I heard the same things from people like Andy Kubert and John Romita and Jim Lee, all guys who really came from that system where they really were very hands involved on the creation of the books. And you're right, certain people can do it, but when they can't, some people can't do it, but if you can do it, we should take advantage of it. And the fact that you have such a great collaboration between these two, you want to take full advantage of both their skills and ability, and that's the way to do it. But then the other side of the coin is teaching by example, and that's why we lean on Greg and Andy and Jim and John to really help set the tone and the style that hopefully we can bring out to other talent and teams and through our series. I agree completely. You know, when you buy a book, you know, the art sells you the first book, and the story keeps bringing you back. That's why it's so important for everybody to be involved and be part of that process. So
I think it's such a great initiative you're doing, Dan, with that, honestly. And just to
But I bet you Pete Tomasi would like to stone me.
no comment.
Just to give credit where it's due, you know, a lot of the time I think when things go well for a company or whatever, you can kind of sit back and try and milk more of the same from you guys. And one of the great things about Dan, honestly, and one of the reasons that I've loved working for him over the last 7 years is that whenever things go well, or even not, but when things especially are going well, he's always up for taking risks and reassessing. And the fact that I think he looked at the line and said, you know what, we're doing really well, but we need artists also to take the lead here because, you know, it's true, the best books, the ones that have been the most successful pairings in Rebirth too, are ones where those guys get along really well too, like Pete and Pat, and work together forever, and they have a shorthand, Greg and I have a shorthand. You know, when you realize as a writer, the best stuff you're going to get is when you just give it away. Like let the artist do what they're going to do when you have somebody you really love and trust. And so again, credit to Dan and DC for the Dark Matter books and the emphasis that they're placing on artists this year, because it really is, it's a great thing to be a part of. As a writer, it makes our job more exciting in that regard. It never feels like it's being detracted. It's like when I get to work with John Romita, or that's what All Star was about for me, was trying out, working with all these different artists that I had before. And the joy is just giving the story over, finding out what they want to draw and letting them do it in that way, and then you get a better story. So I'm really proud of what Dan's doing and what DC's about this year. It really is exciting.
Yeah. One of the things that I always like to point out too, these two guys, as hardworking as they are, as collaborative as they are, you get great story, you get beautiful art, but what you've gotten, I think what's been forgotten, is consistency in the business. We always say, how does an artist become great? And it's not just because they can draw beautifully. A lot of people can draw beautifully. It's being able to be out there month in and month out. And I think the 5-year run that you guys did on Batman really just set a new standard, or reminded people what the standard is. Reminded people of an old standard. You're right, absolutely right. And I think that's what's important right now. I think you develop that loyalty and that relationship with the fans. With the talent, because they're there, there's a trust that comes in. You know that when I buy that book, I know what to get because I know who these people are. So from my standpoint, that's something, again, is the way to lead by example, is by showing people that we make a commitment by taking on these books. It's not about just doing one issue and then selling prints in a convention hall for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
It's about going out there month in and month out and applying your craft, getting people to like you, build that fan base up, and that's why we're able to take a winning team on Batman and moving on to our first big event book in quite some time, really, when you think about it. And that's exciting to me to see them over there and be able to take that energy and take that fan base they built and really expand it outward. I do want to build on one more thing that Scott said, because he brushed upon it, but I can't stress it enough that he did, how important and integral this is to the DCU. This is not separate and apart from Rebirth. Just because it doesn't have a Rebirth banner doesn't mean it's not part of the DCU. And during the course of this, there will be other material to show the full expanse of the series. There'll be a series of one-shots, but this story will be crossing over with a number of titles, ongoing titles during the course of the series, just to show you how interactive the entire universe is in the story, and then we'll see the cause and effect of metal, into the DCU following the event as well, which is, again, what you expect from a major event book.
Well, also one of the great things that, and going back to not make it too much of a love fest, just going back and forth, but one of the great Well, no, I mean, look, we've all been working together a long time now. I feel like we're family. We've had knockdown, drag-out fights in all kinds of ways, but we are.
I always will come on top because I'm heavier. I just mean this way.
But the thing is, like, at the end of the day, one of the great things is, not only has Dan's always been like, show me something better, but, you know, when things have been going well, especially like this, we have a plan. Like, the great thing is we're able to say DC, like, what he just said about, like, how metal will affect the books, right? All that's already determined. We had a summit 2 months ago, 3 months ago, where I met with all these different writers, and I was like, what do you want to do? Here's the story. These characters need to go find the remnants of this metal, this different end metal around the DCU to save it from TBA, to be announced terrible things coming. What do you want to do? What serves your story? And that joy, you know, I love collaborating with the other creators that way. The other thing I'd say is that, so now where we are is we're getting to plan all the stuff that spins out of it already. Meaning the stuff that we know what's going to happen at the end of the event. But, you know, effects on stories and books. So it's been great to be able to work within this big plan, you know, and be able to be like, we have this, we know what we're doing all the way through the end of 2017, all the way into spring, summer, almost 2018. And we want you guys to feel that when you read this event too. And Dark Days, The Forge, and the Casting. You start to see that there's a big plan that not only has been playing out over the last year in particular, but over the last, you know, 5 years in terms of Easter egg clues. But you can see the hints of what's coming in ways that will be paid off in big ways over the next 2 years, you know, and that everything has been great in terms of going out to DC and being able to just set up a real sort of map, you know, for all of us as creators. So it's been great in that way.
You know what? Let's see. We have about 15, 20 minutes left. You know what? If we have questions, can we line up with a mic and then we can take questions from over here.
Can I say one quick thing, which is, because I know I don't want anyone to feel like they have to rush out to get in line for us, because one of the things they warned me about was our signing. Our only signing today is right after this, and so I know a lot of people wrote me and tweeted me saying, I'm sorry I'm going to miss the panel because I want to go get in line, and I know the line is down there already. But what I did was we talked to the people at the booth, and we made sure that they cut the line early so that there's extra space. And if you guys go down there and tell them, they wanted us to make up like a code word you can give them. It's like, you know, Hail Hydra or whatever. You go down and tell them.
You can find something more creative than that.
So, yeah, if you just go down and be like, I was at the metal panel, do the horns or whatever, they're going to try and let you into the line anyway. So I know that a lot of you gave up spaces in the line to come up here and listen to us talk, so I don't want you to think you're going to miss out. Thank you.
We would have been very lonely without you.
Okay, first question.
Hi, how you guys doing? So you guys...
You want us to talk into the phone?
No, I'm just recording.
Okay.
You guys have been talking for the last 30 or so minutes about metal, which is awesome. I can't get the idea out of my head of Batman riding a dinosaur. Does the dinosaur have a name? Does it talk? Is it going to be the next Robin? Can you tell me about that?
That's really interesting. That would be great if he's like, come on, Robin. It's like,
can you name it Sean? That'd be cool.
For a small fee.
Exactly. No, it's gonna be a lot of fun. It exists on Black Hawk Island. That's all I'll say. So.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for coming in. Orlando's great to have you, and I hope you guys have a good time.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, you want that back?
It's great to see you. My question about metal would just be, what are some of the specific influences, either on art or storytelling, that you had for the story, and what do you hope its influence will be in the future?
Well, I spent a lot of the time over the last year rereading events from both companies, just going back and forth and seeing what makes them really work. And there's always the stuff of the effects at the end and those things, but what I feel like really makes them work is when they feel like you're getting more than you paid for when you turn in, where it's like, more story, more characters, more surprises, all of that. So I wanted it to be something that felt bonkers in the best way that DC events can, where Marvel ones usually, to me, looking them over, are more grounded and have more sort of long, emotional, cumulative builds and stuff, and that DC will just drop stuff on you, where it's like, this dude is riding the tuning fork from Infinite Crisis back here, filled with magic and characters and the world change, and it's awesome, because you're just like, yes, let's do this, and it feels summer and epic and all that. So Jeff was a big influence, as he's been, the architect of many super successful events for us, but honestly, the biggest influence was him, being like, you know what do I want to see him draw? What's going to make a story? I know the story's personal. It's
Draw, monkey, draw!
it's a personal story. It's about, for me, it's about Batman characters realizing the ways in which history can suddenly fall backwards into a terrifying, dark place, and things can come out of the shadows that you don't expect. It really is about sort of being like, what the hell craziest thing can we take advantage of to make this story just make you feel like we're celebrating you, the fandom, the characters, all of it, and surprising you along the way with every nutty thing. And the other day I was just telling Dan about stuff where I was like, pulling a certain character out, and I was like, and then Batman picks him up, and you were like, what? I can't believe that's even in there. And it was like, it's that kind of story where the influence really is the relationship with Greg and me and Dan, and being able to say, let's have fun, let's go crazy.
Yeah, there's not an influence on the art end. You know, I mean, I just do what I do. And it gives me fun stuff to do. It just excites you like you did when you were a kid drawing comics, right? So it just brings the excitement into your heart that makes you want to do fun, cool stuff. So there's not like another artist who's got, you know, that I'm thinking about or anything. I just do my thing, you know what I mean? And so it gives me the stories, my art goes, and then I start moving my pencil, and that's how it works.
I always have to make sure he's like super in love with it too.
Oh yeah, I can show you the texts. Yeah, what'd you think? It was good. It was just good? No, it's fine. Just fine? You didn't love it? No, I loved it. Was it great? Yes, it was great. It was fine, it was good, it was great. I love it, it's the best, you're a genius. Go to sleep now.
He does it to mess with me too.
I mess with it. My wife thinks it's so mean, right? Because she sees me, I'm playing, I go, look at him. This is just good. And I'll go, I'm not going to answer for a while. And he starts going crazy. My wife goes, you're so mean. You're so mean. I go, no, this is what guys do, you know what I mean? And then I go, are you mad at me or something? You haven't answered for the last 10 minutes, right? And I troll him for a little while until I finally go, yes, it's great. You can run it. Go have fun with the kids, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
What you guys do is great in DC, and what's even better for DC is the fact that you guys are allowed to work on your own personal projects. I know there was an announcement for Scott, you're having something coming out later this year. I was wondering if you both could talk about things that we see from you from outside of DC coming soon?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's always fun to sort of do stuff that it's almost the way I was describing it to Dan is almost like DC is my home. You know, I've been here for 7 years now. We have a relationship where I feel great about the company, the people I work with, I love from editorial all the way up. And so I always know I'm going to come back and do stuff at DC and be there. I have no plans to do anything about DC for a long time at this point. But it's fun when you work at a certain place all the time, especially, you know, until when I already had stuff at Vertigo, to be able to go out and say, you have like a country house or a small place where you like get away from all the people you know and explore things like that are smaller projects that you're just doing for yourself in different ways. So for me, yeah, I have Witches coming out again, but I've been working with Jock, which I'm really excited about, and he had Reborn this year, which was awesome. And it gives you a little bit, you go and you grow. It gives you, you don't have, you know, when you do, the one thing I'd say, and again, this is really about metal, but the fun thing when you do create your own is that it's an inverted sense of purpose. Like, when I do these characters are bigger than me, meaning, and any of us ever. Batman is, you know, Batman, right? And so my job is to make you to come on and tell the best stories I can and make you care about the things that I care about that he's making me brave for in relation to. So like, I come on and say, I want Batman to face this thing I'm terrified of for my kids. I hope you agree. With Creator Owned, you care about me, because you probably know me from whatever. You don't care about anything I'm building, and I have to make you care about the things I'm building, the characters, the mythology that you don't know yet. So when you go and you do that stuff, it just flexes totally different muscles and it energizes you to come back and do this because it's working from 2 different ends of the spectrum in that way. And it's a joy, like watching him. You know, one of the things I'll say super quick and then shut up is that when he was on Reborn, we never stopped going back and forth. We texted and talked all the time. So it's not like, oh, we're off doing our own thing and now suddenly we're thrown back together. We were talking the whole time in the way that it's a joy to get to see him flex all kinds of different muscles on independent stuff that way, and then know we're going to come back and use some of those skills in new ways over here too.
It would be the fun thing with doing a Creator Own, which I just did Reborn, which is, to me, my proudest work so far, with Mark Miller. Oh, thanks. But it's like, and especially some of the subject matter, because if you picked it up, you got all that fantasy stuff with dragons and everything's, you know, just off-the-wall ride, aliens, everything. And so that really brings me back, because when I was growing up, you know, I was a big Frank Frazetta fan and all that fantasy stuff, and so I draw that stuff crazily all the time, but I get in trouble for it at school because the art teacher wanted me to paint bowls of fruit, and I'm like, oh, come on, bowls of fruit, no, look at this. And anyway, so it's very slight, I don't want to regress. Anyway, so anyway, that was really fun because now there's my the essence of a lot of the stuff from my youth, and Mark gives me this story, and so now I get to create all this world just from the ground up. And so one of the great things about doing that too is nobody can tell you that it's wrong. Nobody. You know why? Because it didn't exist before, you just made it exist. And that's one of the joys. So there's nobody going, it has to look this way, you have to do that, you have to... No, it's all yours, and so you bring this entire world to life for people. And that's, to me, it's no greater joy than to just create from scratch and just go, here's a whole world to look at. So anyway, there's the joy for me of doing it.
Thank you, guys.
Are you sure that the last reborn was your best favorite work and not anything prior to that, like Haunt or anything like that? You know?
Haunt was a lot of fun with Ralph Kirkman, but I had more time and more creativity. That was already created. I'm created.
Okay, thanks. Next question?
Yeah, I've got a question. Could you tell everybody here in articulate detail and excruciating depth and length why you think, why you know Spawn is stronger than Batman? I'll bring you back to the copious notes to your answer.
Wow, right now I'm going, there's a guy who used to pay me, here's a guy that pays me. No, man, I think it's one of those matches that you can't really put in the same arena too much. I mean, Spawn is supernatural realm, so to me, I don't know, I think that gives him the upper hand. But then on the other hand, the guy who pays me,
We're not going to the dinosaurs.
Listen, I love all those characters so much, I'm just glad that I had an opportunity, and I hope they just get along, because I love them both. How's that for a political answer?
So has there been any talks of having a DC Unlimited app?
Always under consideration. Okay, remember that. There's a lot of talk about things like that right now, and we know there's a lot of interest on that, but we're looking at what's the best way to go about and do it. Yeah.
Cool. And then if I can ask another one, has there ever been an event or something that you want to do a crossover? Because all the characters affect each other in the DC universe, which I like the most. So has there ever been say, I wanted Nightwing for this story, but hey, he's Agent Grayson now. Has anything like that ever happened to you, where you have to sort of rewrite the story based on?
You want to take it? Because Nightwing's back to being Nightwing again, but rewrite. Okay, so you can take that.
No, honestly, I know it sounds hokey, but we're all pretty close as writers at DC right now, and we've had a bunch of meetings and summits, and so, no, I mean, if somebody says initially Tom was going to be in the past because he's doing this Joker Riddler story, so he wasn't going to be able to be a part, and that's super cool, you can use Batman to your detective or whatever, and then it was like, oh no, he's going to be back in time, so you can, and no, it really... You just work together. I mean, it really hasn't been ever anything where I'm like, oh, I'd like to use this character or work with this character, but I can't because, it's more, okay, well, if that story's going, you find another way to do it. And no, it's never been an issue, honestly.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Yeah, but there's two caveats to that. Number one is there's a lot more natural conversation taking place between the writers so that they have a better sense of the story, and that which is good instead of it just coming down and somebody dropping it on a table saying you got to make this work. And the other side of the point is what's been great about Scott with this is that the amount of planning that's gone in advance has given everybody enough time to know when they might need to cross over because they want to. And they might be working on something else at that time, so they find natural breaks in their own storytelling, but they can drop over a crossover event so they can participate. Because a lot of folks like to participate in the big events because it's kind of exciting to be part of it,
When you see the ways that they can cross over, like back when we did Joker, it was like, who wants to use the Joker in the Batbooks? And it was like, everybody put their hand up. It's like that here, where the stuff coming from the Dark Multiverse is going to be so fun that when I asked everybody on the books, like, do you want to be a part? They're all in. So everybody's pretty much in.
Very cool. Thanks, guys.
There you go.
Hi there.
I know.
Okay, what's the costume?
Oh,
I'm not recognizing it.
This is the spy from Team Fortress 2, so...
Oh, that's why.
If I put the glasses on.
Oh, that makes a difference. That works in, okay.
I mean, first of all, I don't really have a question. I just kind of want to fanboy to you guys right now. I'm just, one, to you, like, you guys are, to me, the Stan Lee and Steve Ditko of our era right now. It's just...
Which is which? No,
like, you mentioned, like, you were inspired by, like, Frank Frazetta, and I really see a lot of that, and, you know, you talk about making key moments happen in your work, and it's just... It comes out so beautifully. From page 1 to the last page of your entire run was perfect. Beyond anything I can really describe.
I just want to say I love you.
Well,
wait till he takes off the mask first.
like, just specifically talking about my favorite moment from you guys, you actually hit up on the issue, which was something unique as far as the whole reinvention of the Batman mythos. For a lot of time, as a fan of Batman, it really did seem like Bruce Wayne was a small god. So for him to be put in a situation like underneath the tunnels of Gotham, creeping around in the darkness with no idea what's coming out at him, and vulnerable for the first time in a while that we've ever seen him, like very visibly shaken, was a moment that I could not possibly have seen for that. And for you guys to illustrate that and write that was beautiful. Like,
Thanks.
You can come home with me later when I feel down, you can just talk.
the last thing I just want to say is thank you again so very much for all the work that you guys do. You guys don't get enough, I think, and just thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to make a suggestion. Scott, whenever you look into that, find out something's great, with a text, I would send it to him.
Totally would.
Hi guys.
How you doing?
I'm a fanboy a little bit too.
Oh, please.
Just a tiny.
Don't hesitate.
So first thing, Rebirth. I'm loving everything you guys are doing. Second thing, you guys' work has helped me get my wife into reading comic books, so thank you for that.
Wow.
You're running Batman.
There you go.
Now I can get my wife into reading comics.
So I got a question for you. My neighbors hate me. If I just blast Slayer's Hell Awaits and Judas Priest Painkiller while reading this every weekend, is that the perfect soundtrack for this?
That would be perfectly acceptable, yes.
Anyways, thank you for your work and keep the Rebirth thing going, man. It's amazing.
Great, thank you now. Okay. I think we're at that time, so you're the last question, sir. Make it a good one.
Well, first I just want
Unless you just want a fanboy.
He likes to take us
a
up
little
with.
bit of fanboy, because like, when I came in here, I admittedly didn't really know a lot about metal, but after hearing you, Scott, like, talk about it, I am very excited now. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
And like, I guess my question is like, I know you guys did Batman for a while, but like, if there's any other like DC character that both of you guys would want to like work on together, like, who would it be? I guess.
Well, this has all of them. So
This has
all like.
But I think I would just whip ass on Lobo. You know, old school Lobo. I think I would spank that.
Spanking Logo. I'll make a good convention saying Spanking Logo.
Alright. That's pretty much it.
Oh, that was good. That was good. It's just saying, okay. So, following Spanking Logo, I want to thank you all for joining us here. Thanks for the support, and look forward to the